How much did you keep up with baseball in prison?
I didn't. I mean, we only got a chance to watch baseball games during the playoffs.
Every October, in United States Atlanta Penitentiary, inmates are allowed to watch the World Series on TV. For convict Willie Aikens, the experience always sparked a trip down memory lane.
And Willie Aikens, the batter.
Deep right center field. Willie Aikens just broke into his home run trot.
In Game 1 of the 1980 World Series, Willie Aikens hit 2 home runs.
Well hit, way back. This is maybe out of here. It is.
In Game 4, he smashed 2 more, setting a World Series record, and overnight, he was a baseball star. During that same World Series, Aikens used cocaine every day, never knowing drugs would one day land him here.
I didn't know being an ex-professional baseball player if it was going to be a plus for me or it was going to be a negative day.
What was it, a plus or a negative?
With most people, it was a plus. When I got to Leavenworth, the guards, they already had a job for me. I was taking care of the softball field. They knew I was coming.
The slugger had a tough start in life. Raised in South Carolina in the early 60s, in a time of segregation and civil rights protest, Willie picked cotton to help the family get by. Behind their 2-room shack that had no running water, young Willie's alcoholic stepfather repeatedly threatened to kill Willie's dog, and finally did, leaving it in the yard. At 12, Willie saw his stepfather stab his mother in the neck, nearly killing her. In 1994, Aikens was convicted for selling 64 grams of crack to an undercover officer. Along with a gun charge, the 39-year-old was sentenced to 20 years, 8 months at Leavenworth, a maximum security prison.
I mean, there's people that have murdered people and you know, have got lesser time than that.
In the 90s, federal sentencing guidelines for crack convictions were harsher than those for powder cocaine by a ratio of 100 to 1.
Racial discrimination. Crack cocaine was prevalent in the black community. Powder cocaine was prevalent in the non-African American community. And somehow a combination of that led to these horrendous and unfair guidelines.
So Willie, I have something here. You had sent Mr. Gillick a letter, but at the top, there's a handwritten note. Can you read for us what you wrote for him there?
These last 10 years has been a tremendous struggle for me. Will you please try and do whatever you can? Drop me a line if you get a chance. Thanks.
From 2006 to 2008, whenever the Phillies were in Atlanta to face the Braves, Philadelphia general manager Pat Gillick would make time to visit Aikens. Willie had transferred to the Atlanta prison from Leavenworth after a fight with his cellmate. 20 years earlier, the convict played for Gillick when he was GM of the Blue Jays.
First time I went there, they wouldn't let me in. And I said, he said, well, the prisoners are wearing khakis. And you can't go in if you have khakis. And I said, well, what do I do? I said, I've come all this way and I want to get in to see him. And the fellow said, well, there's an Army and Navy store about a mile down the road. He said, you're gonna have to go down there and buy some other clothes. And he told me one time, he says, Mr. Gillick, I'm either gonna die naturally in here. He says, somebody's gonna take me out. He says, you know, that's what I'm worried about.
What kind of response do you give him?
You know, mind your P's and Q's, and there's a lot of people on the outside pulling for you.
How did the conversations go?
Talked about baseball. Where the prison is located in Atlanta, you could see the lights of Turner Field.
On December 20th, 1983, the Blue Jays traded for Aikens. Despite hitting .300 and having clubbed 23 homers the previous season, most Major League organizations, including the Royals, wanted no part of Willie Aikens.
I think they wanted to separate as much as they could from the past, what they deemed to be a blight on their history.
3 months before becoming a Blue Jay, Aikens and 3 Royals teammates had been arrested on cocaine charges. Before joining the Jays during the '84 season, Willie spent 3 months in prison.
And Willie Aikens, the batter.
We knew there were some problems, but we thought there were things that we could overcome.
When I went to Toronto, I was clean and sober. I developed a relationship with Mr. Gillick. It was wonderful.
Pat was amazing. I mean, he was all about recovery, wanting to work with Willie.
Gillick assembled a team of doctors to manage Willie's rehabilitation. When Willie took road trips into northern Ontario to counsel Aboriginal kids about the perils of drug use, Gillick was by his side.
I can honestly say I don't plan to do drugs or alcohol ever again.
I really felt in my heart that he tried to turn his life around. There was some doubt, I think, certainly with our manager and coaching staff that maybe, things had passed him by.
In April of '85, the GM released Aikens due to poor production. Gillick couldn't contain his emotions.
I knew how much he wanted to redeem himself. I think how much he wanted to show the fans and other players and the public that he'd really turned his life around.
That same season, the Jays franchise secured their first playoff berth.
The Jays have won it! They've won the Eastern Division Championship!
Over the next 6 years, Aikens played in Mexico, became a father twice, and was often high on cocaine before retiring from baseball in 1991. When he moved back to Kansas City, Willie nosedived into addiction, while Gillick's Blue Jays won back-to-back World Series titles.
I wasn't playing. So now I can sit in my house and smoke cocaine every day. Well, I used to sit down here and rock up cocaine. I would sit down here and I would smoke for so long, my body wouldn't even feel the cocaine anymore.
Did you have any sense that maybe he was off the wagon, so to speak?
No, I didn't, not at all.
There were times I would take a big old hit off that pipe, and I would ask God to spare me.
After his arrest and 7 years behind bars, Willie was desperate for his freedom. Due to mandatory sentencing for crack convictions, there was no chance for early parole. His last hope was a pardon from President Bill Clinton.
I put together a letter, forwarded to Ron, and I think this was part of a package that he delivered to the president's office to one of his aides. It could have been a ball, could have been a strike. It was pretty close, and unfortunately, the pardon wasn't granted.
What was your purpose for visiting him?
I went in there to basically reinforce him and tell him not to give up.
Because there was always talk about they was gonna amend or change the crack cocaine law. And finally, they did it after being incarcerated for like 14 years.
In 2008, at the age of 53, Willie Aikens was finally a free man.
I had to make a change in my life. It took me a long time to even admit to the fact that I had a drug problem, but over a course of time, I realized that I did, and I became a better dad to my kids while I was incarcerated. And that's how mentally and emotionally my life started to change.
After his release, Aikens testified to the House Judiciary Committee, pleading for continued reform of the drug sentencing guidelines.
We have so many sad cases of drug addicts being locked up and the keys being thrown away. Look at me and look at the progress that I have made in my life. I believe many more people would do the same thing if they are given a chance.
Willie began educating high school kids on the dangers of drugs, eventually earning his dream: a return to baseball, a chance to mentor tomorrow's Major League stars.
George Brett, George talked to people at Kansas City. I talked to the people at Kansas City, and sure enough, he was hired as a minor league hitting instructor.
Clean and sober, Aikens is looking forward to the future.
Praise God today that He has allowed me to have a baby, a 5-year-old, and I'm experiencing stuff right now that I never got a chance to experience with my older daughters.
But what's the rest of the journey look like? What's the story look like at the end?
Right now, I'm praying and hoping that I can continue to make good choices in my life. I wanted to let Mr. Gillick know that, you know, how much I really appreciate our relationship that we've had over the years. We haven't seen each other a whole lot. You know, he's busy and we live in different states, different cities. But I wanted Mr. Gillick to know that, hey, at one of the lowest points in my baseball career, that he was the person that came through and rescued me.
It was great. I really enjoyed it.
Could you get this guy out?
Oh, I think I.
Mr. Gillick.
Oh, how are you doing?
Man, you?
Good to see you.
Good to see you too. I know I'm not the only person life that he has affected. I love him, you know. I want him to continue to be a part of my life. Hopefully we'll stay in contact more and better, and I'm very thankful for that. We never know what's gonna happen in our lives, you know. Get the opportunity to see you, Mr. Gillick, and thank you for everything that you've done for me and being behind my back. And
you did it for yourself, babe. You did it for yourself.
Well, you didn't have to come to USP Atlanta and visit me like you did.
Yeah, but you did it for yourself.
No.
You know?
You can be good at what you do in this world. You can be the best in your profession. But until you're the best at being a human being, you're really not the best. Here's a man with great human values who happens to be a Hall of Fame baseball executive.
To me, it's so amazing for a player that you had for a short period of time and you supported, but to still consider yourself part of his team is different. It's not I think the way a normal.
You know what, Stevie? I'm really not normal. What I did, I mean, I do for any individual that needs help and really genuinely wants to turn their life around.